Welcome once again to Social Distillation, the submarine still of the internet, where we attempt to drop the bead and pour white lightning straight onto your brain. And today is Sam's show. I'm just along for the ride.
Well, I mean, we're going to do some wheel time if we have time later. I guess we'll do that as a separate video, part one, part two, as we've been doing. But I want to talk some sports because of what we talked about last time and some stuff. You know, it's NFL offseason and there's a lot of movement going on right now and some big blockbuster deals and trades. And I wanted to kind of dispel a myth out there because as anything else, as politics, as religion, as everything, there's seems to be this binary argument, and it's the players versus owners dichotomy or the relationship there. So I wanted to kind of go into a little something there that I think is an angle that most people don't think about. But before that, I wanted to do a little continuation of what we were talking about with Leah Thomas last time. So for those that were here for, I think it was episode 65, part 2. I believe that's right.
Yeah.
65, part 2. This is 66. So, which I did wear in football in the in the 8th grade. That was my number in the 8th grade.
Because you were a fat boy.
No, I wasn't fat. I just grew earlier.
Yeah.
But then I didn't grow hardly anymore after that. So I had to switch positions. But the Leah Thompson, that's what we're talking about, right?
Yep.
Okay. So one of the arguments out there is no way that somebody would do that much to their body to just get ahead and get a title, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that got me thinking, because there's this phenomenon that we've known about in our industry for quite some time. It's the Goldman Dilemma. And back in the 80s and early 90s, a data scientist named something Goldman, he started tracking or doing questionnaires with Olympic athletes. And he gave them a choice. Would you take a pill that guaranteed you would win a gold medal and possibly for five years in a row be the top of your sport, but you would die at the end of 5 years? And back then he got a result of about 50% would take the pill. They would die in 5 years to guarantee a gold medal. And that was used a lot in the doping litigation. So back then there was no anti-doping rules. So they were trying to basically put together a case that athletes
look up pictures of East German swimmers.
Yeah. So they were trying to build a case that the athletes would even harm themselves to get ahead. So here's the Wikipedia on Goldman's Dilemma. Well, since then they changed the rules, and now it's illegal. So if you get caught, you'd lose your medals. And there's the fact that you would be doing something unhealthy. So they redid these studies in the modern environment, and they didn't match the 50% number, but there were still some. One of these studies, 7 to 14% across athletes, and they did it in different ways. And there were some that if it was legal, they got a higher number versus, it's this one. So legality also changed the acceptance rate. So 13 out of 212. So 13 out of 212 is not 50%, but it's also not zero. And what we have in Leah Thompson is we have one, right? Mm-hmm. And there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of female elite level swimmers. And there's at least one that would do something to their body to get ahead in the game. And so just to dispel that argument of nobody would do this. Well, 13 out of 212 would die to be the top of their sport.
Mhm.
and we saw with the Olympic lifter, well, now she's going to be, if they keep the rules in the Olympics the way they were with the trans athlete from New Zealand competing in Olympic lifting, then she could possibly be in the next Olympics swimming for the US as a female. And this has been a big part of our industry. Another study that redid it, but because of bodybuilding, big dead bodybuilders. This is the reason why I don't go down this route
Mhm.
when I train athletes. I don't do bodybuilding clients, and I don't do fitness female bodybuilding or figure competitors. And it's not because I can't, because it's actually, in some ways, if you've got the right client for it, it's easier than standard fitness because there's less variables. And typically, if somebody's getting into that, they've got this internal dedication and motivation that you don't have to dig out of them. So it's in some cases easier to do than what I do with other clients. But it's also not healthy at all. Okay, he brings up the Goldman dilemma as well, but he also brings up this guy had triple bypass at 38, heart attack at 41, and died at 47. And he's one of the older ones. They take so many drugs to get big and then so many drugs to get lean that they're just destroying their bodies to get to this unnatural bodybuilding physique. And
Mhm.
right here we go. We got a nice long list of people who died under the age of 50, died age 22, died age 30, died age 30, died age 30, died age 32, age 33, age 33, 35, 37. The list goes on and on and on and on. And then he has another list of people who almost died and have gotten out of it basically since then. But so this is nothing new. Athletes will do what it takes to win, even at the expense of their own body, for the most part. At least a certain percentage would. So it's not surprising that someone would take hormone replacement therapy just to put on a suit and win a title in a female division. Your thoughts on that?
I I thought that was so obvious. I never even thought to counter that argument, but when you brought it up, I realized, yeah, I have heard people say that or seen people write that, and it is utterly nonsensical because we know, ad nauseum examples. We know bodybuilding, is the most obvious one of just point at that. Those
Mm-hmm.
people aren't healthy. We have even if you don't know all the data you just brought up, you can just look and go, that's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And but they do it. I mean,
Well, unfortunately, so many people do still look to, Muscle and Fitness magazine and
yeah.
bodybuilding type magazines and say, that's what I want. That's what I want to be. I can do that if I go to the gym and I do this training split that I saw in Muscle and Fitness. And first of all, no, because you're not taking enough drugs.
Mhm.
Second of all, no, it's not good for you. Don't try to be that.
Yeah.
Be
Look
like,
at Barry Bonds' head. Do you think that's healthy? But he
I
wanted,
wasn't going to go there, but
no, he's actually a great example because people forget the athlete he was before he started, you
Mhm.
know, uh, looking like he did, and so that he could hit home runs. He was already like a solid 40 home run hitter before he started juicing. He was also a base stealer. He was a 40 home run, 40 stolen bases. Well, not 40 stolen bases. That's Henderson territory, but just on uh his average, his stolen bases, his home runs, where he was on track for a Hall of Fame career. But that wasn't good enough because he started seeing what guys like McGuire and Sosa were doing, and the the attention and the acclaim they were getting for those home runs, for that chase to break the home run, the single season home run record. And he needed that just for himself. He was the kind of personality that needed that. And
well, not only that, the type of player you are determines how long you play too. Like strengths and overall just weight behind it, power lasts a lot longer than the spring you need to steal bases. Yeah. You just accumulate weight gain, so you're going to slow down. That twitch of the muscle kind of slows down a little bit, but being able to swing a bat once, that lasts a long time. And for people that say, oh, steroids aren't going to help you hit a ball because it's such a precision thing, if you can do something sub maximally and get the same results, you're going to have more precision at it. So if you swinging at 75% hits it out of the park, then you're going to be able to hit more balls than if you have to swing at 90% to hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe me, go get a board, go get a nail, put your hand on that nail, and you swing the hammer as hard as you can. See how accurate you are. And if you're not willing to do that, don't argue with my point.
But the fact that we have to rebut this argument in the face of so many obvious examples and history and data and knowledge. For crying out loud, why did we have the Just Say No program in elementary school? It was to lock it into your developing brain that you don't want to do these things that are incredibly harmful for you. Well, why do you have to tell people not to do something that's incredibly harmful for them? Because there's a part of us that will want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just human nature.
Well, I'm gonna be right back. Make sure I got workers in the house. Let them in. Okay. They went to lunch.
So to me, it just illustrates one more time how what the issue isn't actually the issue. Because if this is what the issue was actually about, then people would be able to craft a more coherent argument for it. But it's all part of a package deal of lies and insanity.
Whether Leah Thompson is an activist or not, it doesn't matter, because she doesn't care. She just wants to win. And she was 460 something as a man. And she is number one as a woman. I just personally, in this whole debate, I have trouble with one thing, and that's actually calling them what they want to be called. Not because I'm rude. I want to add a qualifier to it. If they haven't gone through the full transition. Because to me, you're trying to have the best of both worlds. I mean, if you're going to do it, commit to it. And she hasn't committed to it because of, you've seen the articles now, I guess by now, that walking around the locker room with her male genitalia out. If anybody doesn't know what's wrong with that little phrase right there, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong podcast. Send it to somebody else and share and subscribe, or share it, but don't subscribe if you don't agree with that. But or leave us a comment. I don't care. Angry comment. I think that actually feeds the algorithm. The more angry it is, hit that dislike button. But yeah, I have trouble if they haven't fully transitioned. That's why I have trouble with our health secretary. She is not transitioned. She just puts a wig on and talks like a girl. There's no commitment there. But as we digress, football,
please. Yes.
Okay. So lots of movement going on. We had here in Houston, we had the big Desean Watson trade to Cleveland, and he got his new shiny contract extension deal, $230 million over 5 years, 4 or 5
All
years.
guaranteed, I think.
All guaranteed, yes. So sorry, Cleveland fans, you will not be going to the playoffs anytime soon. And we're going to go over that. It's all about the numbers. I'm going to poo-poo on Aaron Rodgers a little bit for the same reason, and then bring up a few others, because the big deal yesterday was Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins, 4 years, $120 million, and 5 draft picks. So those that said the Dolphins are rebuilding, yeah, sorry, they're just trying to sell tickets because Tyreek Hill is exciting to watch. They don't care about winning. Trying to think of how to lead into this. Okay, so all of that is
before you get into the numbers, the Watson thing annoys the crap out of me because the brazen hypocrisy of it all. The NFL didn't, wait for the investigations, wait for the facts in other instances. And they seem incredibly hesitant to do anything about Watson. Roethlisberger was one accuser for which I do not believe there were any criminal charges. Watson actually went to a grand jury. Roethlisberger didn't have any criminal charges to my recollection. It was just one accuser. He got like 6 or 7 games pretty much immediately, because this happened in the spring and the offseason. And at the beginning of that same season, that same calendar year, he was sitting out 6 or 7 games.
Yeah.
They have yet to do a single thing about Watson. And
now
I'm not sure they're going to.
The criminal charges are dropped, but the civil charges, I think there's 22 civil charges he's facing for basically rubbing his junk on people. And it's kind of like a 50-50 split here in Houston. People are mad about the Watson situation because they're like, oh, you should have treated him right. But again, maybe because I do a lot of studying of cluster B personality types, I'm good riddance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad he's gone, because not only the off the field issues, which are actually very representative of his dealings with the team. He wanted complete control over who the new GM was going to be, who the new coach was going to be. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you haven't earned that yet.
Mm-hmm.
They got a GM that is notorious for working with quarterbacks. That should have been what he wanted. That's step one, because you have the professional that knows what he's doing, but is also willing to work with the people on the team to build a better team, especially the pivotal position at quarterback. But I'm sorry, Desean, you've proven to be a good quarterback, but you've never proven yourself as a GM.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady went through a process of working with his GM for a long time before he had as much say, because it turns out he has a head for it, which is no surprise because he played football and has become probably the best quarterback ever using his brain, not his body.
Yeah.
He does obviously has some of the intangibles, but he was a cerebral player. Desean is smart. He's intelligent. You can't be an NFL quarterback without being intelligent, but he hasn't proven his GM skills yet. And then to throw a fit when you get the actual perfect GM for it, which was Tom Brady's GM that groomed him that way, to come in, which was also a want for the last 10 years for the Smith family and Houston Texans. They got their guy they've been looking for a decade, who also works with quarterbacks, and he still threw a fit because he didn't get to pick them and held out for a year, including all the off the field stuff, because he didn't get to pick his coach. He didn't get to pick his GM, and he didn't get to pick the coach because he wouldn't answer his phone. And so they had to hire somebody. So it's good riddance. This guy's a little freaking narcissist, and he can get any girl he wants in the club, but he still has to get the ones that say no, because it's all about control, and he wants control. Have at it, Cleveland.
And this is, the quarterback is your default leader in the locker room. Is that who you want as a leader?
Mm-hmm.
You're about to get into money and numbers and how that impacts, and it's incredibly frustrating here in Dallas to be paying Dak Prescott as much as we are, but at least
your number 2 running back is a big chunk of your.
Yep.
Well, we
But
can bring Dallas up too. I don't have him on a tab, but we can bring him up pretty quick.
At least by all accounts, he is a genuinely good guy. I know people who have met him personally. He by all accounts, he is who he seems to be, and he's a great leader in the locker room. So at least you're getting that for your money if you're not necessarily going to get on the field. But let's get into let's segue into the numbers then, because that was I wasn't sure what you were going to talk about, but when you mention numbers, I have a sneaky suspicion, and it was infuriating to listen to the arguments here.
Well, let's start with this guy. I made a meme. Because it's true. Hold on.
Yeah.
Here we have a nice little breakdown of salary caps. This is our boy.
And you would think that surely Tom Brady is the highest paid quarterback in the league, right? Because he's got all the rings.
Well,
surely.
Okay, so this is a $150 million contract. So it's actually less than Desean's. But here's the big number right here. It's the cap hit. And this is the myth I want to dispel. So I'm going to lay this out in front here. When we're talking about players and getting paid, everybody says, oh, it's the greedy owners. It is not the greedy owners. The owners are going to pay the top of the salary cap every year, all the time, for the most part, unless they're planning ahead for rolling over to the next year, because you can roll over some salary cap. So they're going to pay near the top of the salary cap every year. They're not skimping on money. It's a GM trying to build a team within that cap. And when you have players taking up a big chunk of the cap, well, you can't afford to field as many good players. And so this is old Mr. Rogers here. And this is after the restructure. And usually the first year is not the worst, but he's still pretty close to $30 million. The salary cap is about $210 million. So he is sitting at about 15% of the team allowance, just in one position out of 22 that you have to field, out of 53 that you have to have on the sideline, right? So out of 53 players, he is taking up 15% of that salary. Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl, and then he signed a new contract. And look at his cap hits after that. Can't get back to the Super Bowl. I wonder what happened. And you notice this was last year.
His rookie year. He was still under his rookie year.
And look what happened. Look, no wonder they had to trade Tyreek Hill. Because it jumps from 8 million to 36 million of that cap, which is above 15% now, right? Let's look. We can get rid of Patrick. We can get rid of Aaron. Let's look at Tyreek Hill. He went over to Miami for 5 picks, $120 million. Yeah, it's not going to be too bad that first year.
Ooh,
but then
that's
look
a lot for a wide receiver. Holy cow.
Look what he gets the next year. He's going to sell a lot of jerseys, though. Owner's going to be happy with that. And then after that, so he's going to be getting about 15% of the team's salary, just in himself. Tyreek Hill. And here's our boy, Desean Watson. Not too bad the first year. Again, they backload these contracts. And he got $44 million that doesn't get counted towards the salary cap right there. So he made his money this year. This number is not representative of what he made, but the way they do these contracts. But look at next year. That's 25%, over 25% of the team salary. And you think they're not wheeling and dealing right now to get ahead of that? He's not going to have a team around him. 25% of the whole team salary is in one player. Now, one thing that kind of sucks is there's this thing called dead contract. Texans still have to have that cap hit because they traded him, and that was part of his guaranteed in his contract. So that's a big chunk of useless cap room. And there's the definition of dead cap that basically explains that. So if they had guaranteed money and you trade them away, that counts towards your cap space. Now, every team's got dead cap, and Texans are around the average even with that number. So it's not too bad, but it's at the same time. That's why teams don't just drop players that are a hassle. Dead cap. Here's a guy I wanted to bring up because everybody loved JJ Watt because he does so many things. Well, he screwed his team because, I thought I had his Houston time up. Here we go. Now, keep in mind, as great of a player as JJ Watt was, he is one side of the defensive line, which means all you have to do is double him or run the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't afford anybody else. This is his early days before he did his contract, and he was defensive player of the year. Okay, good, great contract. Boom, 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 boom. Look at all that money in one side of the defensive line, $20 million. So 10% of your cap space, and the cap space was less during this time.
Yeah.
So it was under 200 million. So over 10% of your team allowance on one side of the defensive line. That's why you don't see these contracts winning Super Bowls. You don't see defensive linemen getting paid that much. Close with Aaron Donald this time around,
Yeah.
but I'm going to show you some fun stuff that they did because I wanted to show you an example of a Super Bowl winning team and their cap space allowance. Matthew Stafford made his money. They brought him in because he was the missing piece. They were a borderline team the whole time, and they had enough cap space to bring in a quarterback without giving up Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, all of these people. Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp was still not getting paid Cooper Kupp worthy money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So look at the lack of disparity all the way down the line. You got one guy, two guys making pretty good, but it's really not a huge drop off all the way down. And Matthew Stafford actually gets paid less next year because if we look at 2022 with the Rams, that flips. Him and Donald just switch places in the cap space.
Hmm.
So we've got a Super Bowl winning team, and you don't see a massive disparity. Why won't that update?
Well, just look at the percentage there. You've got your quarterback is making 10% instead of the, 15 to 25 that we were looking at before. That gives you room to do other things.
Now let's look at Dallas Cowboys. I'm trying to get a team that isn't the first year for the quarterback like Watson was, where it's going to be less. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys in double digits, and then it drops dramatically all the way down. 7 guys getting paid, but then no team around them. And geez, a tight end in those 7.
Yep. And then consider the Rams numbers where you had all those people between 3 and 5% of your cap. You had a long list of people, 3 to 5% of your cap, and really just 2 up at the top.
Let's see. Okay, we did get updated here. So Donald's going to get paid next year, and he's taking a lot of cap room. Let's see how the Rams do. So if my theory about the disparity in income in the depth chart is true, then they'll probably be a borderline playoff team next year. So we'll see. We'll see. Kind of predicting here. Let's look at the Packers. 1, 2, 3, 4 guys getting paid a lot, and then it kind of drops dramatically after that. Oof. Into the league minimums before you even get down to the bench players. So Aaron Rodgers, that's why you can't win a Super Bowl. It's all about the numbers. I actually would love to see, this is statistics beyond me. I would love to see a regression equation that takes the income disparity and maybe correlates it to wins or playoff appearances or something along those lines. Oh, we should have looked at the Lions. theirs probably sucks. Give me your thoughts, and while I'm pulling up the.
They have all sorts of other issues. The Lions, perpetually other issues. I'm curious. Kind of want to go through that and look at those numbers and see if we could predict the Super Bowl winner, or at least the conference champions, using the cap percentage spread, if you will. How well do they spread out their cap percentages, or is it all clustered up top with three to seven guys, and then it's bottoms out after that?
Maybe we can simplify it with like top 3 players versus, 53 divided by the cap would be your average, right?
Mm-hmm.
So top 3 players averaged versus like whatever the disparity is, whatever the ratio is there, and then win percentage or whatever. Because let's look at the Lions here. We got a crappy quarterback taking up 15% of the cap room, and then one lineman and a linebacker, and then we get a pretty dramatic drop after that. Now they actually spread out a little bit in the middle, but 3 players making big bank, and then it drops after that. What other team we want to look at? Who do you think has a pretty high paid quarterback?
Actually, I think you should pull up Tampa.
Tampa?
Yeah.
Now Tampa had a lot of depth issues, so I would expect to see a drop here too. No, they're pretty spread out. Tom Brady, as the highest paid player on the team, is still less than all these other quarterbacks that I keep bringing up.
Mm-hmm.
And
so you don't have anyone in double digits. He's under 10% of your cap. Everybody's under. Everybody's at least under 10. So
let's see who else has a high paid quarterback or notoriously sucks. Let's look at the Jets. Well, they're pretty well distributed. How did they do last year?
Oh, not good.
Do they look like they're rebuilding, or is it like they're just not good? I don't know. I didn't watch the Jets a lot last year.
I think they're just not good. I think they're the Jets.
Let's see. Atlanta sucked. Let's look at them. Yep. Three with primo money, and then everybody drops after that. 2 of the 3 above 10% of the salary cap. Well, I guess if we want to compare last year, we got to look at last year's numbers. But
I do. Your point about the greedy owners is, yeah, it's not that simple. That sure they are when it comes to like the percentage splits of the TV money, which is what the big arguments are always about with the collective bargaining agreements. So sure, they're gonna be that way, but they aren't skimping on the salary cap. They're always, hitting it or close to that salary cap. So they are paying their players what they are, able and obligated to. But then
this is where I think you almost think that they gotta kind of revamp their interview process when they're building a team. It's like, hey, do you want Super Bowls or you just want the money? Because realistically, what's the difference between $10 and $12 million, other than the fact that $2 million? But I mean, as far as your lifestyle between $10 and $12 million is not going to be much different. And if you win a Super Bowl, you're probably going to be selling a lot more ads for HEB, right? So it's these players that just want that status of highest paid. Well, guess what? You're only highest paid till the next good player gets a contract.
Well, not even decent player. So that was the argument here. That's why I brought up Dallas is you had even the people who were acknowledging what that was going to do to the cap hit and what that would mean for other players around him all said, but you have to do it because that's what it costs to get a franchise quarterback. Okay. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, because I don't remember who it was who had just gotten their big deal right before Dak signed his. It's one of the younger guys. I want to say it was like Goff or one of those younger guys had gotten a $40 million a year deal. And so that was the number that they were shooting for, is that he needed to be a $40 million quarterback because that other guy was. Okay. What's that going to do to your team? What's that going to do for your chances of winning? So yeah, the owners are greedy. Guess what? You guys are too. So you can't just spin it one way.
Yep. In the salary cap era, we can't use the argument of they deserve it, because part of the game is fitting everybody into that cap.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, quit supporting these Marxist industries as well. When you're trying to get paid more, you're basically guaranteeing you're going to have several guys on your team making minimum.
Yeah. That's a great point, because in the economy as a whole, the Marxist ideas break down because the pie keeps growing. Okay. This is a great example of how those principles actually do make sense, because you literally have a finite pie. Mm-hmm. And you know what that is every year. You know how big the pie is going to be, and that everybody's going to have to take a slice. So how big a slice are you going to take? Mm-hmm. In the outside world, in the real world, the pie keeps growing. I mean, that's how Jerry Jones was able to buy the Cowboys for, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was tens of millions of dollars, and now it's $1 billion franchise.
Well, not only that, the more well-fed your group is that's sharing this pie, the more work they're going to be able to do. So if you take a big chunk of this pie and everybody else gets a little bit, you're going to end up having to do all the work. So I would actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because you got a Pareto distribution in all economics, with 20% of the people get 80% of the wealth, but they also do pretty much 80% of the work. I wonder if you got a perfect 20-80 split on your team, that would be the optimal Moneyball. Now we're talking. I gotta look up what the Moneyball people think on this. I started doing it with baseball, but yeah, it's
now the argument from the players is that they have to score those big deals because the lifetime of a player is so low.
Well, let's speak specifically of the quarterback position. Is your lifetime as a quarterback going to be shorter or longer if you have a great offensive line in front of you? Mm-hmm. Well, Tom Brady's been playing for a long time, and he's been taking those pay cuts.
And the quarterback numbers really don't make sense, because the lifespan of a quarterback is so long now, because he's so protected by the rules, even if you do have, a crappy line. So you're going to be able to stretch that earning power out for quite some time. I mean, heck, look at Alex Smith, who had a really disappointing career for being the overall number 1 pick, and yet he was able to play for a very long time, including after a pretty freaking gruesome injury. He was able to come back and keep playing some more.
Well, look at even the career backups like Kellen Moore, and now he's a coach. Mm-hmm. He played for what, 13, 14 years?
I don't think it was that long, but he was around for a while, yeah.
But very few times did he actually touch the field. Mm-hmm. So it's if you're pretty dang good but not good enough to start, you're still going to have a long career of making millions of dollars. So but even still, sign a 3-year deal and you're making $2 million a year. So that's not a huge cap hit, right? That's 1/100th of your team salary. $2 million a year, and say you get injured the second year, you still got $4 million for playing a game. That's that's why it hits, I think, so many people's deaf ears when you hear that.
And again, the players are looking at it as, well, yeah, but that money has to last me my entire life because I'm going to be so beat up. Well, one, that's not necessarily true. And two,
well, the shorter your career, the less beat up you're going to be coming out of it.
It takes money to make money. And if you've got that much money, and if you don't know what to do with it, there are people out there that know what to do with it and can make sure that that big chunk of change you just got, instead of buying the fancy watches and the cars, goes into something that will continue to earn income for your lifetime.
Again, I just want to keep this grounded in it's not the unwillingness to pay, it's the fact that there's a rule that they have to stand with it. And it doesn't matter if you increase that. If you increase that to 300 million, you're still going to have a disparity of talent, and the more percentage you can pay towards talent, the more quality your team's gonna be. So the disparity doesn't matter. It's just going to shift. The curve is going to shift with that end number. And what number is high enough? What league minimum is, what, 600,000 now, somewhere around there?
I thought it was by position, but I don't remember.
Well, yeah, the minimum of the minimum, though, I think is somewhere around 600,000. I think minimum for quarterbacks is like 900,000 or something. But don't quote me on those numbers. It's probably on the page I was just on. But if the minimum shifts, everything's going to shift. If the top number shifts, everything's going to shift. And the person that made the $50 million a year salary is just going to make 60 and take the exact same percentage of the pie. So it's about the percentage of the pie. And again, what's the lifestyle difference between $46 million a year and $50 million a year? It's not a chunk of it.
You're already in rarefied air there, son. So yeah. Well, that's all I got on that. Did you have any more?
No, that's all I had on that as well. I just wanted to go over the numbers and kind of dispel that myth a little bit, but also talk about the Desean trade and why I don't mind it too much. I mean, everybody's complaining because we didn't get enough. I'm like, we got the biggest haul since Herschel Walker.
Yeah.
For a guy who may not even play next year.
Yeah.
That's a pretty damn good deal. And realistically, when you talk about rules changes with the salary cap, if a player demands a trade, you shouldn't have that dead cap hit. If it's player initiated, now I understand why it's there. It's to keep you from just dealing players around like toys. But at the same time, if the player initiates the trade, first of all, the no trade clause that he had to release for it to happen, as soon as he demanded a trade, that should have been null and void. And second, you should not have to pay that dead cap hit for a person who wants to leave. But that's just me. I might be taking the owner's side. Ooh.
I don't like the owners either.
Oh yeah, I don't like either, especially our owners, because ever since old man McNair died, one of my clients who used to be a season ticket holder sold it after everything kept going downhill with our team. He calls young McNair Tommy Boy. He said Tommy Boy took over the company, and that's why we're where we're at.
Yeah, looks like.
But I'm actually optimistic for this year. We got a good coach in Lovie Smith. We got, I think, 4 or 5 picks within the first 80, and we a lot of cap space after that trade. So optimistic. Fingers crossed.
I'm not.
Well, that's because you're a Cowboys fan. They've won less playoff games since 1996 than the Houston Texans. Then Joe Burrow alone. So have fun with that.
Yeah.
Do we want to pause and go on to
Yeah. It's
Wheel of
whatever's
Time?
next.
Yeah, that's all I had other than Wheel of Time. All right, so we're going to do this as a separate video. So this will be part 1. Wheel of Time fans, if you stuck through this and listened to us be grumpy old men talking about football and money, then thank you. Like, share, subscribe. We gave no medical advice. We gave no, we didn't even give career advice other than quit being stingy if you want to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then we didn't even talk any politics. I guess we did with the Leah Thompson thing.
A little bit.
A
Yeah.
little bit. But all right. Be back in a minute.